It'll say, see,
Oh, okay. Now it's being recorded.
yeah. Hello, Mortal Kombat fans. I'm here with Andrew Kudelka, who you might remember worked on several Mortal Kombat projects, including the old Midway comics from like with John Tobias back in the early '90s.
Yep, these guys.
Yep.
They're flipped on the mirror. I don't know.
Um, Let me be the first of many to say thank you for doing this interview.
Yeah, no, yeah, no problem.
Um,
Thanks for having me on here, Brian. I appreciate it. Yeah, no problem.
um, okay. I'm gonna read these off like like not in the order that I sent them to you. And
Yeah, yeah. However you want to do it.
okay. Who inspired you to be an artist?
That's a tough one because I've been drawing since I was a kid. I could give you my earliest memory. It was sitting on my dad's lap where he drew a dog, and I was about 2 years old. It's just my fondest, earliest memory. I can remember sitting there, him drawing it with ease, and being mesmerized by how he drew this two-dimensional, goofy-looking dog, and that inspired me to draw. And then I got into comics and comic books and just all the usual stuff as a kid. You're growing up, and my aunt used to buy me those old Mego figures and stuff every time we'd come from the airport from a visit somewhere. And I get into superheroes and cartoons, and I would just draw anything that inspired me. I start drawing since then. I do remember another early memory of getting into art was when we went to the art institute, and I got into painting after buying. My parents bought me, this is maybe about, I was about 6 maybe or 5. They bought me a book on how to illustrate animals using oil paints and stuff like that. I remember that really stuck with me. I still remember that. But over the years, it was just odd because friends that I grew up with would all be drawing, and I would be inspired by friends in the neighborhood. And this is kind of funny backstory because I grew up with Rich Divizio. He was one of the kids on the block,
Hmm.
and he would always show me his friend who was in a higher grade than I was, and he'd be like, "Oh, look at what he's drawing." And Rich swears that he never did this, but he did. He was using it to inspire me, but he was also kind of being a dick about it as a kid. You're like, "Oh, my friend draws better," and he would bring the drawings over, and it'd be these images. I'd be drawing Star Wars, and he's drawing Apocalypse Now, and I'm like, "What's Apocalypse Now? I never heard of this." And I was maybe 7, so it'd be this kind of one-up game of kids trying to draw better. Shortly thereafter, Rich and I would hang out more because we got into music and DJing, and he had his friend Carlos Pacina, and he was an artist too. And his art, like once I got to meet him, he'd also inspire me because he had a definitely unique style of art. Like back in the day, I like was completely fascinated by his style of art because nobody was drawing stuff like he was. He got into the realm of stunt and animation, but Carlos was a phenomenal artist back when I was in like early 20s in high school. He was doing some really cool stuff. So I want to say like those are like the small pieces of inspiration. Alex Ross was another one that inspired me back when he was shopping his Marvels idea initially too. When I saw how he was doing photorealism, I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. You could use your friends, set them up, and do some cool like lighting and get some cool ideas from posing and shadows. And I got a lot of ideas from the way he was using references, and I loved the way he was doing that. So there's a lot of, I want to say, a lot of bits and pieces that I kind of amalgamated over the years. But even John, meeting him, going backwards again in the 80s, he was somebody I met through the DJing groups and graffiti groups, and he was doing comics, and he was one of those guys that I would want to go and hang out with him, and we would just draw and do like jam pieces of stuff we would be into, Star Wars or fantasy or whatever. And he'd have old computer at his house where we would play Bard's Tale, I think if it was, where he had the software, and I'd be like, oh, let me hang out and just play this game. And then we would do just all kinds of like nerdy stuff back then. And he was an influence too because I loved inking his pencils because they were so smooth. It was such a different style that I loved drawing over that. And him, and I think when we separated from the comic stuff, I was still doing comics. He went into Midway. That's when he wanted to do the comic. I think it was John's main idea to do comics for the first arcade game, and eventually the second one, do the collector's comics. And he invited me to ink his stuff because he liked the way I inked it. So that was one way to do it. We already had a relationship established, and he would always throw me a bone with some jobs here and there. at Midway since then. But that was like talking about inspiration. Long story short, um, I want to say it's kind of all the little things you meet in your journey, all the people you meet, you kind of take bits and pieces of everybody. There was no one specific example because there's other stuff I've been inspired by, whether it be bookstores, libraries, whatnot. Library was a big hangout for me. I would go there and just like peruse everything and take classes there too sometimes because the library would offer free classes. So it's no one specific thing, but like I said, the earliest memory was my dad drawing this dog. I think that was where it got all started.
So, yeah, that covered another question that I had,
Sure.
like, which was like, how did you get involved in working on the
With John?
comic books with John?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I could go more in depth with that, but John was somebody that I met through the mutual friends that I got to know in high school, in my late teens, and it was a graffiti group called Smog, Supreme Masters of Graffiti, named after the dragon from The Hobbit. And these guys were really cool friends. We'd have meetings occasionally at my house, and I didn't really do graffiti that much. I was kind of like just into the art. I had my own graffiti stuff that I would just scribble and mainly DJ and draw comics. But these guys would have meetings, and I got to know John through that. I met a lot of other people through there too. People that I eventually had a DJ group with. I don't know if you. This is a little factoid, but Rich DeVizio, a mutual friend of ours, Jesse De La Pena, and I would have like a trifecta group of DJs, and we would all mix. So it's like a real mini fact that Rich DeVizio used to DJ with me in a little group in the south side of Chicago in the 80s and early, well, up to the mainly the 80s, yeah. Um, but John started doing more serious comic stuff and connecting me to a few companies in Chicago to do more work. And I would just go through him and do these little side project. I think there was a group called Slam and Watusis back then that he knew that I remember drawing that one or like inking it, and then we would do our own little side projects. And we found little small companies in Chicago, one called Just Imagine that went defunct. He started to work at Now Comics. I never got into Now Comics, but that was a place that was infamous for a lot of people from Chicago working, including Alex Ross. He worked on a Terminator comic there, but John Tobias did Real Ghostbusters there. I still have he gave me a cover that he drew, inked. I have it somewhere. But my relationship with him kind of grew from just doing all that. We even wanted to do movie projects and stuff like that. I remember having a script that I wrote and I wanted to like direct with him. And there's like a infamous story we had where it was going to be all our martial arts friends, like Daniel Pacina, Rich DeVizio, Carlos. All of us we're going to go to a forest preserve and shoot. And we got into an accident and we couldn't shoot anymore because the gear was in the trunk and the trunk was smashed. So there's just like a lot of history with John just hanging out, being a friend, because we would do all the nerdy stuff back then that we were into, from Star Wars to role playing games to music to whatever we were into at the time. And eventually, Mortal Kombat came on his lap, and that's where I got the comic stuff and got to kind of work with him on that, which was like a fun period, I guess, working on inking his stuff.
Hmm. And, did you know about Mortal Kombat before doing the comics?
Well, no, not really. I mean, it was just kind of one of those things, right? Like you don't know what's going to happen with it. And he had the story planned out, and a lot of our friends were involved. And I was like, yeah, let me do the comic. I didn't. I mean, it was still new, fresh. Nobody was really expecting it to blow up.
Yeah, like it was originally
So
known as Kumite and other titles.
yeah, I mean, it was so many things that in its early days that it didn't really feel that big at the time. I mean, it didn't really hit hard as far as like the effect it had on the world when until like I want to say the 2000s, when you start hearing about people who grow up on it in other countries, and other countries had it kind of almost really established as a cultural phenomenon, and then you start seeing it blow up since then. Because I mean, when you see the global impact is where it was like, now, okay, now this is pretty deep. It's become more cultural. And then you start seeing it pop up in different movies and different books. And it just became an iconic thing, especially with the court hearings that they had regarding violence in video games. Like that was
Yeah,
another thing
the
that kind of
Senate hearing.
established. Yeah. The Senate hearings were pretty big. But even then I didn't think it was, I didn't expect it to get have such longevity back then. Even I kind of felt it was like one of the things that, because as a kid you're growing up and a teenager, you're just doing things that you love and you're doing stuff that's fun and you're doing it with friends, um, and then you don't really see the implications of that until later. I mean, these days it's more you could respect that more because there's just such a saturation of ideas in the market that back then when it was harder to get in the market, there was more respect to what was produced and put out there. These days, there's just so much out there. It's hard to kind of even, find things that you might like because there's just so much of it.
Mm. Um, what are your thoughts on the Malibu and DC Mortal Kombat comics?
Oh, back then, I was like, this is not going to be that great. I was a kid. I was full of arrogance and I didn't think it were going to be that great. I didn't really get into them that much, but over the years, they hold kind of a special spot because it's very 90s comic book vibe. Those issues that came out, so it has a. I mean, there was a place, like I collected comics, and I'm a big fan of a lot of '80s stuff that I grew up with, and then
Mhm.
the '90s weren't my favorite period because there was all these collectors issues and bagged issues and stuff with cards and comics, and I never really got into it. But I could appreciate the Malibu stuff now, looking back on it, because it just has its place in time that you got to enjoy for what it's worth. But I never really got into those issues. I never read them. I never was really deeply involved in them.
Yeah, I have. What about the DC MKX comics?
Never got into those either. Never had a chance to really know about them. That's kind of one of those things I never really
Like
pulled
later
off the
on.
shelf. Yeah, I never really spent too much time getting too deep into it. But again, it's one of those things that I could appreciate it just because it's in comic dumb. I could appreciate the fact that it exists because there was some cool stuff that kind of came out from the collaboration with Warner Brothers. Mixing DC and Mortal Kombat.
Mm. Um, which Mortal Kombat comic book would you say is your favorite that you worked on?
Oh, well, there was the two mainly from the first
Yeah, which
arcade
the
game and the
two?
second one. But the second one I enjoyed because that's when I hit a flow with my art inking over John's stuff.
Mhm.
Um, there's actually a page in the second one that I completely redrew too, which a lot of people don't know about. But I guess if you're curious, there's a page
Yeah.
where Johnny Cage is in the water, and I hated the way I drew the water or inked the water, and I completely redrew the whole page in John's style, then re-inked it. So I think I have two of those pages somewhere, but I do have a lot of the original pages if you want. I could pull out with them,
Sure.
or some of these pages here. Oh, I don't know if I have that page that I was. Yeah, I think I still have it here. So this is the page with the water
Hmm.
that I was talking about. I hate it. The original one I did was too dark, but this is the page I completely redrew. So John actually was cool about these pages too. Traditionally, a lot of comic artists, inkers, like one person who's the penciler and then the inker, produce a book. They usually split the pages as far as ownership. So John was kind enough to give me the pages for the first and second issue, half of them, and he kept the other half. So I've only auctioned off, I want to say two or one of them, but I still have all the originals mostly. Um, but yeah, they're to me overall. I cherish the originals because it's a time in history and place that I worked with John on something.
Hmm.
So I really hold on to those for that. I know people have offered to buy them in the past, but I really don't know if I want to sell them. Like
Yeah,
I
too
appreciate
much
having it.
sentimental value.
Right. There's a high sentimental value, and just having something that's very iconic like that is really cool for to pass down to my son. And if he wants to hang them up or do whatever he wants with them, then I'm assuming in the future maybe there'll be a time to even rescan them, for maybe a high quality book of history or whatever. I know there's always books on MK that come out, but maybe there'd be one for that.
Like this one right here.
Right. Is that the recent one?
The flawless victory one.
That just came out, right? That was
Yes,
the most. Yeah.
came out
So
in
books like
October.
that. I imagine the comic might be rescanned someday, and that would be really cool to have, the pages still handy for rescanning.
Um, are you a fan of the franchise?
Am I a fan of it?
Yeah.
Uh, I I have my love hate with it, I guess, because there was a period where it felt like it just was never ending. Like
Mhm.
I've worked on it, so I have a bias. Like there's memories. I worked a little bit on special forces in the background doing graphic design stuff, and then John would invite me here and there on like stuff behind the scenes to do some front side back work. But overall, I can really appreciate, I think, the level of connection it has to my past and my
Mhm.
friends and my own collaboration with John. Like that's, to me, it's more intimate than it would be. I think I love the fact that how iconic it is and how much it stands out from everything else. So it's a weird relationship that I have with it. It's almost like when you have a relative, like a child or a cousin. It's like you're going to be biased towards that person because they're your relative, no matter how bad or how good something is. And you're always going to connect with them and feel like, hey, you could do good. And you're always encouraging it. Like, I do want to see it continue in success and keep going. But I also, you have that part of you that wants to judge and be like, oh, it could be better here. It could be worse here. So there's a part of me that roots for its continued success. And another part of me is like, it could be better. It could always do better. And it just, it's like seeing, like I said, a child or a cousin or somebody. You're there for them, but you always want them to be better. And I want to say that I am a fan, but I'm a fan because to the degree that it's like part of my uh,
Past.
blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah, like working on the book. I even remember working how we had to hurry up coloring it back in the day. There was a period where John wanted to finish coloring the first issue to get it put into the promotion right away. And I remember us going to his house, and there was John Vogel, myself, Goski. We're all sitting there like wildly coloring it with markers just to get it ready for the old school way of cutting out the actual colors to paste, like the acetate color tones and stuff. And it was tough, but it's just like a part of people's, memories, to be able to sit there and be part of something that was really fun too. Because a lot of the stuff that people do creatively before they realize any kind of like commercial value is just the joy of it. So I have a lot of joy of being part of this, in my opinion. Yeah, even memories of just seeing this game out in the wild when John and I, with a bunch of MK people, including Alex Frost, went to San Diego Comic-Con in '92. That's a fond memory I have of going with John to an arcade with John Vogel, and they were just in the distance watching it play out in San Diego. And that was like the early days of seeing how big it got. And it was just really cool to be part of that history because not only was MK out, but on the other side, you had Alex Ross pushing his Marvel's idea to the industry, and he was about to blow up too. So it was just such a pivotal place in history, and I love to, and I feel honored to be part of that in a way, just to be there and see it happen and unfold from my own perspective. So as far as being a fan, like of that, yeah, for sure, I'm a fan, but I wouldn't be like a traditional fan that has to go out and play it and live it. There's a lot of people
Or buy
like
some of the
yourself.
merch.
What's that?
Or buy some of the merch.
Like even the merch, I would buy the merch just for seeing the artwork. Like I wanted to buy the latest book. I haven't had a chance, but I was looking at it, and I know there's some issues with some AI in it, but
Yeah.
for the most part, the book is pretty solid. And part of me wants to pick it up. I'm a big avid book collector, but at the same time, I would buy it just to relish in that nostalgia, the history, and the development, seeing the nuts and bolts. I still feel like there it hasn't been like a really deep gritty dive into it, but I could be wrong. I don't know if there's enough of that you know history to really go around, because it's a lot of work to kind of connect with all the people involved, because it isn't just John and Ed that created this thing. It's just all those people that were involved in it
Yeah, like
helped establish it. Yeah, a lot of personalities.
Vogel, not John Vogel, and
Yeah, there's a lot of people behind the scenes, the
Eric
actors,
Kincaid.
the stunt people, like there's
Yeah.
just it
The
just it to
Pacinos.
me, yeah,
Yeah.
it's lightning in the bottle, like,
This
to
goes.
make a Raiden pun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So much talent was behind that, and it was just a perfect storm of all the people that worked on it, and respect to everybody who put it together, because that's hard to find. It's hard to have happen, and
Yeah.
that's another reason why I could kind of respect all the iterations over the years. It's like you want to like keep it going if it's going to be alive, and it has such a huge impact that you don't want to just walk away from it. If people are interested in that franchise, keep going and see what you can do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been actually reading it and taking note of like the typos that are in it.
Oh, in the book there's a bunch of typos.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, people should, hold it up so that it could have at least another edition. These days everybody's about,
Like a revised edition.
yeah, revised edition. Everybody's about speed putting it out. That sometimes a lot of those mistakes get
Yeah,
through.
yeah, like it's been edited, like it's been published by AI and stuff.
Yeah, that's the other thing. How people are incorporating AI into everything these days. It's really hard to kind of double check. And I mean, editors to me are in comics. Editors are really disregarded as a powerful force because they really keep things cohesively together to make sure things don't get lost grammatically and in continuity. I mean, there's just editors have an unsung hero kind of job, in my opinion, in a lot of formats, and people disregard it these days because of AI.
Mm, do you have a favorite Mortal Kombat character?
The one I used to always go to was Sub Zero. That was the one I got to memorize the control overs. Visually speaking, Raiden, obviously the classic one. I just drew Raiden for a fundraiser for the Raiden Science Foundation. I don't know how familiar you guys are with
Yeah,
that.
like yeah, I know what you're talking about. For
Yeah,
that one family.
yeah, fan family that have their child, their son named after Raiden, who's
Yeah.
got the debilitating disease, and that would playing would be Sub Zero for sure.
Mm, let's see here. What do you like the most about being?
About what?
What do you like the most about being a part of the franchise?
That the impact it has, culturally speaking, around the world. I mean, to me, that's just incredible. It's really hard to have to be recognized. Oh, I don't know if I could. Let me see if I could. I wanted to give you the Kano image really quick and drop it in here. I don't know if there's a way to do that. Hold on.
If you have a digital file, you could just send it to me and I could add it in post.
Okay, cool. I'll just. I thought I could do it through chat here. Let me see. No, there's no way. I'll send it to you through Discord, maybe.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah,
Okay.
just
So
add it
yeah,
in post.
as far as being part of like, what was the initial question that
Like what do you like about being a part of the franchise?
oh, the cultural impact. I want to say that it's just like watching the Last of Us on TV the other day, or the last 2 years or whatever, seeing them turn it into a Mortal Kombat game where Ellie's playing it was like, okay, wow, this is really cool to see that happening. Seeing it being part of other franchises in their universes is also really cool. I love seeing that. So to me,
Yeah,
that's like a nice little like cherry on top, that it's really made such an impact that it just pops up wherever you talk about fighting games, at least in the West Coast, because you got the East Coast thing going with
yeah, like with that one anime, they actually showed
yeah,
Mortal Kombat, and they're trying to translate what Raiden is saying.
right. And I'm a huge fan, honestly. I'm a huge fan of the stuff that John grew up watching too, that influenced his visuals. Like Big Trouble in Little China was a big influence on the game concept, and I love that movie. I love Carpenter. Obviously, a lot of people love his work now, but I
And
was
also Enter the Dragon,
exactly the old Bruce Lee stuff.
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport, I'll watch that over and over whenever it's on TV. It's so cheesy, campy, but I love watching it. I'll just put it on.
Well, that's the
And
'80s for you. It was cheesy, but we grew up watching it, and it's all good to
yeah,
our
exactly. So that
like
kind of stuff I love. You know,
yeah, kids of this generation would be like, I don't like it. It's too corny.
well, that's the kind of thing you want to see happen. Like,
It's history.
what is people growing up on MK gonna and create in the future? What are some inspiring directions that kids can go growing up on that franchise? You want to see it kind of keep going in its own iteration, because it's like that's like evolutionary view of ideas, like going from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
It's always fun to see that.
Yeah, would you
I
be
just sent you the Kano real quick if you want to see how it looks.
okay?
And obviously, I could send you any images that you want to see of any other stuff regarding this, like some of the stuff I did in the past with MK. I did I forget which game it was, because it's not on the top of my head right now. The one
The
where
special forces that you worked on.
the map of the elements that I did for the game that Rich is
Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub Zero.
mythology subs. Yes, that one. That's another one where I had fun doing the map of the elements. That was really cool.
Yeah,
I'll send you a link.
which was basically you could actually, if you look carefully, you could actually see it like stapled into the pin, like into the like when like you could actually see it like stapled right into the like like the cloth
The
or
rollers,
whatever.
you mean?
Like you could see it like stapled together.
Oh, in the actual video of the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, I never looked at it in production, but yeah, it was just one of those things. John asked me, and I was like, yeah, cool. That sounds like fun. I'll do it. And it was cool to create that prop.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably over at NetherRealm right now.
I have it.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah, I know. I have the actual prop. I was gonna bring it upstairs, but I couldn't find it offhand. But I just sent you the actual scan of it because I think it was Timbuk. I don't know what his real name is anymore, but Timbuk wanted a real like a high res scan of it, and I did one for him.
Oh,
So I have
1099?
yes.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
Oh, see, there you go. So for him, he reached out to me if I'm not mistaken, because my memories can get really crossed, but he asked for a high res scan of it, and I put it together for him. So I have a copy of it put together. I rescanned it for him exclusively, and I just sent you a link of like kind of a medium quality JPEG.
Mm. Um, would you be interested in seeing Mortal Kombat crossover with another game franchise, like for example, Tekken, Killer Instinct, or Street
Uh,
Fighter?
I wouldn't necessarily want to see it kind of. I don't have any interest in seeing it with another fighting game. I think it's already got its established space in fighting games. I
Mm.
would love to see it kind of grow into other things. Like I love role playing games. I would love to see Mortal Kombat infused in maybe a world of Dungeons and Dragons, like NetherRealm, like a supplement.
Like they did with Onslaught.
Yeah, like having that mythology of that franchise move into another,
Like
tabletop role playing game or even a board game,
I
and just
know
seeing.
they used to have like the card games,
Yeah,
like
I think
Deception, X, and back like with Brady Games.
exactly. I think if I'm not mistaken, MK1 is going to be done at Cryptozoic. The Cryptozoic is doing something. I saw something on Kickstarter,
Mm.
but I just can't. I don't remember offhand right now if what that is. I just saw it being advertised somewhere. There's like an MK1 game of some sort. I think it's a card game.
Mm.
Um, but that's something that I think would be cool to see more of. Just seeing it kind of bleed into the board game, card game worlds or tabletop role playing games. Just seeing what it can do there
And
would
I
be really
remember
fun.
Angry Joe was talking about something about like that, like an MK like tabletop game or something like that.
Yeah, it would be really fun to see that if they could establish and have some really smart people create a nice streamlined system, um, or utilize another system, because I do appreciate companies like Free League and
Mhm.
those guys that have their own role playing system and how they kind of make things function well, like how they would run fatalities and how they would run babalities or whatever they want to do, but like make it really fun too and really streamlined as a role playing game would be really cool to play.
Mm. Yeah, we have to wrap this up pretty quick because I just received a notification that it's going to end in 10 minutes.
Okay.
If given the opportunity, would you work on any future Mortal Kombat comic books?
Yeah, for sure. If it was, especially if it was working with John again on something. But I mean, I would enjoy working on any of that. To me, it always has a special place in my heart. It would depend on what style like they would want to go with. I'm pretty open to different ideas, but I would love to do something refreshing or even nostalgic or just a mixture of both would be really cool. Just to play around with the idea of where it was and where it can go and how it's changed over the years, how it went from that style that John draws, which is very to me like a Paul Smith, very clean, streamlined, to more of a gritty like style over the years. Like it progressed. Like Vince Prost, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was one of the concept guys. He's working in the movie industry now, but Vince Prost is like took it to a darker world, a more desaturated, realistic world. Like just to see different ways of doing it and different stylistic choices is really exciting to me. I would love to be involved in something like that.
Um, and that wraps it up.
Oh yeah, hopefully that's. I don't know. How do you feel about like the answers and everything? Do you think that you could put together a good edit with all that?
Yeah, I can do. I was able to do that with some of like I usually release them unedited first so that people can get it. look at what it looks like.
Okay. Oh
And
well,
then,
let me end it. Let me end it, and then give you kind of a bookend, then, like as if we're ending it from the interview standpoint. Is that
yeah,
cool?
yeah,
Okay, cool. So yeah, I really appreciate you inviting me to do this, Brian. I know we kind of touched base here and there, and we didn't, schedulings didn't work out for me, but I appreciate you still continuing to reach out and being, insistent and consistent, and trying to pull this together, because it's hard to find time sometimes. But I appreciate you inviting me to do an interview on this, and asking me these questions, and being part of something like Mortal Kombat is really cool.
yeah.